Okay guys, this is how I strip and clean my Kriss Defiance DMK22C rifle. I should say that I'm no expert. What I do is a mix of what I've read in the owner's manual, been told by my local RFD, and seen others do to their 1522s and ARs on YouTube. So if you disagree with anything I do, then please feel free to leave me a comment. Right, usual safety checks first. Selector switch is on safe, magazine removed. And if I cycle the charging handle, you'll see there's no round in the chamber. I now need to separate the upper and lower receiver. And to do that, I need to remove this rear receiver pin. To do that, a little push on the pin will pop it out on the other side. Just enough for me to get my nail under it and pull it all the way until it stops. This then allows me to pivot and open the upper receiver. To remove the bolt assembly, you just pull the charging handle and both should pop out fairly easily. And that is really all the disassembling that I need to do for my regular clean. Now this rifle's only shot about 300 rounds since its last clean. Probably say an equal measure of Blazer and Federal Champion. Yet you can already see how dirty this bolt assembly is, and the bolt face and the rails. It's very gritty under your fingers. Charging handle, that doesn't seem to get quite so dirty. Can't really see it on the black, but that still feels quite gritty under my fingers, so that's going to need at least a good wipe over too. If you have a quick look in the chamber, you'll see how coked up that is. You can see all that light grey carbon dust. And then from the other side, the main problem for my rifle is that feed ramp, because if that isn't kept nice and clean and polished, then I get rounds jamming halfway up that. And then another look from the end of the upper receiver shows just how gritty that is too. The top of the mag seems to get quite dirty quickly too, and if I don't keep that clean, then the last round hold open starts to fail, and that's probably due to this bolt lock trigger getting a bit sticky. So let's get cleaning. The first thing I do is just to thoroughly wipe down the entire bolt assembly with a paper towel to remove the worst bits of the carbon deposits. For the more stubborn bits, I then soak a strip of lint-free cloth with some carbon remover and give that a good going over. And then for those hard to reach areas, I find cotton buds are ideal. Now this bit is probably a little bit controversial, but a few people I've spoken to have recommended I use Autosol on the bolt carrier rails, as it really polishes them up and makes the movement smooth and fast. Now you have to be careful not to use too much or do this too often, I guess, or get it under any moving parts, as it's obviously quite abrasive. But a light coat followed by a good buffing does seem to help. Next up is the charging handle, which just needs a good wipe over with some paper towel. And then it's onto the mag, which I wipe down with more carbon remover. And then it's onto the chamber, again with a good wipe down with a cloth soaked with the carbon remover. Here I find a pencil using the soft rubber end first. It's pretty useful for getting the cloth into the channel where the charging handle goes, and really sort of pushing it up and down, clearing that channel out, getting it right to the far end of the upper receiver. The carbon deposits on the feed ramp and face of the battery really seem stubborn and hard to remove, so I quite often apply a good dose of carbon remover to this and then leave it to soak in for a minute or two to loosen it all up before getting at it with a mix of the cloth and the cotton buds. But I find it's really worth getting that feed ramp to a polished finish, as it does make a big difference to reducing feeding problems when using the rifle later on. So last but not least, we have the barrel. And although 2.2 barrels don't get very dirty, it's pretty good practice to give them a run through now and then. To clean my barrel, I find a boresnake is ideal, which, if you've never seen one before, it's like a thick bootlace with a built-in brush. And with one of these, you only really need one pass. You need to buy the snake matched to the diameter of your bore. This is a hops snake. I think that's pretty much the brand to buy. I got this one just for a tenner on eBay. I just add some general purpose gun oil at the front end. The more you use it, the more soaked the entire snake really becomes with the oil. But for now, I'm putting it at the front end and on the brush. And you drop the brass weight down the barrel, wait for it to come out the other end. And then grab hold tight, take up the slack, and then pull the snake through. I'm making this look pretty tough here, as I'm trying to keep the rifle in the frame and the camera's tripod is in my way. But it's a lot easier if you just stand up and pull it through. But that's it. That's all there is to it. Job done. Before reassembling the rifle, I put a couple of drops of gun oil on the recoil spring. And a drop or two on the extractor and the bolt body and the rails, and then just smooth it all over. Yeah, that's probably a bit more than I normally do, but that's alright. And then likewise a drop or two applied to the charging handle, really in the areas that it's gonna touch the upper receiver when it's moving backwards and forwards. And then we're all ready to put it back together. So, charging handle goes in first, and there are two lugs on the end of the handle shaft that you just need to make sure they drop into the corresponding slot in the top of the upper receiver first, and then the bolt assembly goes in next. You might just need to squeeze the tips of the rails to get them past the opening on the receiver, and then they both just push home. And close the two receivers back together, reseat the pin, and there you have it. One clean rifle ready for the range.